Some 32 minutes after 8 here on Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. As earlier advertised, we told you we're going to get into the tradition and law relative to the demise and of the late highlife musician Charles Kojo-Fosu, popularly known as Daddy Lumba. The intended funeral that was supposed to have happened over the weekend, the injunction thereof, and the responses that have come from the second wife. We'll get into that conversation. We'll have some legal perspectives from two lawyers. Lawyer Osman Al-Hassan is a private legal practitioner, and also lawyer Chris Lebret's Malm Hesse. The direct family of the late highlife legend Charles Kojo-Fosu, popularly known as Daddy Lumba, filed an injunction of the funeral arrangements announced for him. The direct family, comprising Lumba's first wife, his legal wife, that's Akusia Sewa Fosu, and their children, claim the funeral arrangements were made without their consent. I had a press conference on the 9th of press release, actually, and I'll read that full thing to you. On the Thursday, the 9th of October 2025, family represented by Mrs. Akusia Sewa Fosu described the public announcement on the musician's funeral as deeply distressing, saying it was first heard of through social media. Busiapeni also, Kofi Wusu and a supposed funeral committee had acted in their own interest, according to the wife, Akusia Sewa Fosu, by fixing the date, the 6th of December 2025, without consulting the deceased immediate family. The statement said the move showed a complete lack of respect. She's still mourning her husband. She's not happy about it. And then she goes on to talk about that the late musician was legally married to Mrs. Akusia Sewa Fosu on the 23rd of December 2004 in Bornheim in Germany. And under German law, bigamy is strictly prohibited, citing section 1306 of the German Civil Code. Also, this is the full statement, by the way. Stated the 9th of October 2025 is a press release clarification for the direct family of the late Charles Kojo-Fosu, aka Daddy Lumba. It comes with a logo on the right-hand side and the photo of Daddy Lumba on the left-hand side. And it says that it has come to our attention that information regarding the funeral arrangements of our beloved husband, father, and brother, Mr. Charles Kojo-Fosu, popularly known as Daddy Lumba, has been circulated on social media without consultation or approval from his immediate family. Hearing about your own husband's funeral plans for the first time through social media is deeply distressing. This situation clearly shows that Busiapeni Kofi Wusu and the funeral committee are acting in their own interests without regard for the wishes and rights of the deceased direct family. Clarification from the direct family. We, the direct family of the late Charles Kojo-Fosu, whose untimely passing occurred on the 26th of July 2025 in Accra, are releasing this statement to address misleading information and to set the record straight. On 8th October 2025, Busiapeni Kofi Wusu granted an interview in which he publicly announced a funeral date for Mr. Fosu without consulting Mrs. Akusia Sewa Fosu, the legal wife, and their children. This action shows a complete lack of respect for the immediate family, who must make appropriate preparations before traveling to Ghana for the funeral. Since the passing of Mr. Fosu, there's been a continuous and deliberate effort to marginalize Mrs. Akusia Sewa Fosu, the wedded wife, in all funeral-related decisions. This behavior is unacceptable and contrary to both cultural and moral principles. Additionally, questions remain about the exact cause of death, and investigations are still ongoing. Legal and marital clarification. We also wish to remind the public that Mr. Charles Kojo-Fosu was a citizen of the Federal Republic of Germany and was legally married to Mrs. Akusia Sewa Fosu on 23rd December 2004 in Bornheim in Germany. Under German law, no man who is already legally married can enter into another marriage. It is clearly stated in the German Civil Code, BGB, as follows. That's 1303 BGB, prohibition of polygamy. Verbot there, okay, my German is not good, forgiving. To wait, a marriage may not be entered into if one of the persons is already married. That's the original German verbatim stated right under it. Now, what does this mean? It means that the law strictly forbids anyone in Germany who's already legally married from entering another marriage, whether in Germany or abroad, as long as the first marriage is valid. Any second marriage entered into while a prior one still exists is legally void. They said Nichten, that's what it's called, under German law. Therefore, any claim suggesting that Mr. Charles Kwadwo could have married a second wife under German law are false, misleading, and legally unfounded. The legal action that they are demanding is that due to the confusion and lack of proper communication from the funeral committee, the direct family has filed an injunction on both the funeral date and the burial arrangement until further dialogue and a consequence are achieved. The message to the fans and supporters is this: that to all Lumba fans and music lovers across the world, we deeply appreciate your love, loyalty, and patience during this difficult time. We kindly ask you to disregard any unofficial announcements regarding funeral arrangements. The family will provide verified updates through official press releases soon. We assure the public that a respectful and dignified farewell will be given to our beloved Charles Kwadwo, one befitting his legacy and the love he shared with millions through his music. Thank you for standing with the family during this period of grief. Signed, the family secretary, without a name, on behalf of the direct family of the late Mr. Charles Kwadwo. The counsel for Odobroni, that's what she's called, the second wife. I've also been writing, that's from the chambers of politician Baba Jamal, who also practices as a private legal practitioner. I'll share that detail with you in a bit, but just to guide you, to let you know that Daddy Lumba's wife and children have sought an injunction on the funeral arrangement and the burial date. They say per German law, Daddy Lumba couldn't have married another woman, whether on German soil or outside German soil. It gets murkier by the day. Helen, what do we know from the Odobroni camp?
All right, so it's summarized in this way. It's a letter dated October 1, 2025 and signed by Fatih Ali Yala of Baba Jamal and Associates. The legal team stated that they are acting on behalf of the Fosu family. They clarified that Akosua Sewa has no authority to decide how the family should organize the musician's funeral. The letter explained that although Akosua Sewa was once married to Daddy Lumba, she refused to return to Ghana with him when he fell seriously ill about 15 years ago. According to the lawyers, this amounted to a dissertation, as in dissertation, under Akan customary practice. They further noted that she later presented traditional drinks to signify the end of the marriage.
Okay.
Now, the family's lawyers also affirm that the Fosu royal family recognizes Priscilla Ofori, known publicly as Odobroni,
that's right,
as Daddy Lumba's legitimate wife. I'm quoting here. Our client informs us that Priscilla Ofori, aka Odobroni, is married to the late Daddy Lumba and was the woman who lived with him through thick and thin. And they were blessed with 6 children for over 15 years until they lived together till his final day on earth. Suffice to say that when your client deserted the late Daddy Lumba, Odobroni was there for him. It is therefore our clear instructions to state that Odobroni is recognized as is the recognized wife of the date Daddy Lumba, and same is recognized by the Fosu royal family. And that's how the statement read.
When we connect with the lawyers, I would want to find out if while a marriage of ordinance is active, a customary marriage can be activated on the side. That's the first question I want to ask them. I also want to find out from them if the dissolution of a marriage of ordinance can be done with the presentation of drinks.
I mean, some of the things, Johnny, on face value, and I'll come to the point of the family statement. It's a very important question you ask, because sometimes as a people we like to confuse issues, and this is looking like one of it, particularly that response where they say you bring drinks, and we'll get legal experts to come and prove whether or not the viewpoint I hold is correct or not. But I believe you can't end the marriage via ordinance by presenting drinks.
No, I'm not sure. As I said, I don't know. I won't pretend to know. I'm not a lawyer.
Because even under marriage of ordinance, it's strictly one man, one wife.
That's right.
And so you cannot be seen to be engaging in having an extra wife and the conversations, which so there is that.
Because the understanding all through by some people is that Odobroni could possibly be a concubine, not a wife.
Right.
But now, at the demise of Daddy Lumba, and per what her counsel have written, she's claiming to be a wife.
That's right.
Right?
And what is it, customary laws?
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying, that when we raise the lawyers, we would ask the lawyers, can we have two customary, and can we have two marriage of ordinance, one
all stay side by side?
Exactly, by one man, one in Germany, one in Ghana. It's a question that we must ask, and for lessons to be learned from it, for people like everybody else.
Yeah.
Myself, I'm married by ordinance. So you want to
can't attempt to want to.
No, you'll be in trouble. You'll be in trouble. As for that, my lawyer told me before I entered. He said, this one you are entering, and is a gate of no return. Let's know what you think. We're live on Facebook at 3FM 927. And that's our Facebook page on 3FM 927. We're also on X at 3FM 927. Let's know what your thoughts are.
But very quickly, I'm very curious to find out, because this is German law, right? Versus Ghanaian law.
Right.
How we do our things very differently. When the two worlds collide, we'll see whose power big past who. Because I wonder if by German law they'll recognize if you've deserted your husband as this legal letter
because it's in Ghanaian law.
Yes,
I reckon
after 15 years. Even in other parts of the world, there's a certain time frame that if we don't see you and your husband after certain years, I think there's something
but after 15 years we're being in constant communication. You see,
these are questions
these are questions.
But Helen's point is very valid, that if you desert your partner for 50, and this we're speaking based on the facts which is available on
as alleged by the lawyers.
Exactly. Let's go on to the phone line now. Counsel Osman Alassan is joining. Chris Mam Hesse is joining us on the phone line now. Counsel, good morning. Thank you very much indeed for your time.
Good morning, and thank you for having me, my brother, and to your listeners.
Great. Now let's begin the conversation this way. I'm sure that you're familiar with the injunction that had been placed on the funeral and the funeral arrangements by Daddy Lumba's wife. We don't know, first wife now, we know, Sewa Fosu, Akosia Sewa Fosu. And the question on our minds is that she is claiming full ownership of the man, to say that she is the legitimate wife and that there could be none other. On the other side, Baba Jamal's law firm, on behalf of Odobroni, have also written to say that, look, for 15 years when you deserted this man, this Odobroni lady was the one in the picture. They have 6 children, and that drinks were presented to nullify the earlier marriage by Akosia Sewa Fosu. It's quite confusing for us. Can you iron out the details for us so it becomes understandable to the layman?
Yes, I'll just do that. So let's take it from the first step. With the injunction, I stand to be corrected, but I hear the injunction application has been filed. And
that's right.
I'd also seen snipers from the news portal where the head of family says that they've not been served. So, I mean, that said, once the injunction is filed, save that the injunction is served on them, the position of the law is that they cease to do anything until the injunction application is moved, because the court becomes the jurisdiction of the court has been invoked. But that's just preliminary matter. Now, what listeners ought to know is that when it comes to marriages in Ghana, we have three types. We have the customary law marriage, which our law under Article 11 recognizes, and also the Matrimonial Causes Act as well. And then we have the ordinance marriage, and then the Mohammedan marriage. Now, this issue as presented comes under the two forms of marriages, that's ordinance and then customary law marriage. Customary law marriage is what we popularly call engagement. Now, with the first wife, she maintains that her marriage was contracted by ordinance in Germany. Now, the second wife also says that her marriage was contracted customary law.
That's
marriage.
correct.
Let's go into it. Ordinance and customary law marriage are mutually exclusive of each other. So it's like black and white. They don't see eye to eye. So that if one marries, Mr. A marries Mr. B by customary law marriage on a Friday, and then on Saturday, the same couple marries by ordinance, the law says that the customary law marriage celebrated on Friday cancels away because the ordinance marriage was celebrated on a Saturday. So it is as though the customary law marriage never existed in law, because they are mutually exclusive of each other. Up to this step should be understandable. Now, if one, so then the question that sometimes comes to people's mind is, then why do we do the customary law marriage on, let's say, a Thursday, then we do the ordinance on a Saturday?
That's correct.
Because we belong to a traditional society, you cannot decide to do away with it. And some people would want to do customary law marriage and stay as that. So there are forms of marriages that are very allowed. But if one carries out with customary law marriage and moves on to ordinance, the customary law marriage falls off. That is the reason why when one is married by customary law marriage and then moves on to ordinance marriage, in the situation of a dissolution of the marriage, you cannot say that you are dissolving the ordinance marriage by presenting drinks, because there is nothing to dissolve. You cannot build something on nothing. Ex nihilo nihilo. That's the Latin word for that.
Repeat that.
Ex nihilo nihilo. You can't build something on nothing, because what you are seeking to dissolve does not exist. So what are you building on? The drinks that you are bringing, what are you building it on? There's nothing for it to stand on. So once the person married by customary law marriage moved on the next day to do ordinance, the customary law marriage does not exist. Now, let's jettison this into the first wife and second wife in that Ilombe situation, having had this background of understanding.
Right.
Now, the first wife married by ordinance, the position of the law is that where that Ilomba sought to marry a second wife by ordinance, then he has to dissolve that, the first one. So to marry another one by ordinance. That is very simple to understand.
Right.
Where that Ilomba sought to marry another by customary law marriage in the present situation that we have, then that Ilomba ought again to have dissolved the first marriage before he can marry the second wife, Odobroni, because just as we have espoused in our preliminary remarks, customary law marriage and ordinance marriage are mutually exclusive of each other. So the first marriage ought to be dissolved. Now, if preparatory steps were taken, like we have seen from the response letter, where they claim that the lady presented drinks to dissolve the marriage with Daddy Lumba, that's the first wife.
That's right.
From what I have said, because the first wife had customary law marriage and then had ordinance, that customary law marriage fell away. That customary law marriage was cancelled off. And so the drinks that the lawyers in their response claimed that the woman presented to suggest a dissolution of the marriage is no dissolution at all, because there was nothing to be put on something. Ex nihilo hilo. And given the situation that there was nothing to dissolve, the first wife's position still remains in law as technically being the wife.
What about those who would ask the question that this marriage was contracted in Germany? We are in Ghana. We are minding our business. How do you cross the border to come and tell us that you married in Germany, so we should respect it? Does German law apply in Ghana? Somebody would ask.
So German law does not apply in Ghana, but when it comes to dissolution of marriages, the law looks at sometimes where the party are seeking to invoke the jurisdiction of another country in order to have the marriage dissolved. So it is about the parties, it is about the two parties seeking to dissolve their marriage and invoking a particular jurisdiction's law to apply to the dissolution of the marriage. We do it all the time. You understand? So in this situation, drinks brought forward to dissolve the matter had nothing to do with the ordinance marriage, because in law, you cannot use customary dissolution to appease ordinance. You have to go to court and have that dissolution done. It does not also stand to say that you cannot dissolve customary law marriage in court. People sometimes misconstrue or they mislead themselves to believe that, oh, let me go and marry somebody by customary law marriage, and then when I'm dissolving the marriage, nothing happens. I have done that in court. Section 41 of the Matrimonial Code is that if you want formal decree and the release, alimony and all of that, you can go to court and have customary law marriage decreed in court, and then you get rights to the child, alimony from the man and all of that. Now, that aside, if Daddy Lu had sought to marry the second wife, just as I said, he should have dissolved this in court and then moved to the second one. The name sometimes confuse me.
Odobroni. Not Sewa Bruni. Sewa Bruni is a different person.
Yes. In the same situation, if Daddy Lumba had married the German one by customary law marriage, the law permits under Graham and Graham that Daddy Lumba could have married the second wife by customary law marriage, because with customary law marriage is polygamous, and the law says that you can marry as many as you so please, provided you can harmoniously live with them. You get it? So this would be my preliminary answers to your question. If you have any further question, you could ask of me.
Now, the injunction and if you will, the injunction also on the funeral date and the funeral arrangement has become very topical. There's an Ebusuapinyi in the mix, or a supposed Ebusuapinyi in the mix in the funeral planning committee, that the wife, Akosia Sewa Fosu, and the children of Daddy Lumba say that they were not involved in the planning of the funeral. Do they have a case in law?
So again, when we move to that arena, the locus classicus. When we say locus classicus in law, we say that's more like literally means the main case, the most profound case in that area is called Nikwe and others versus Uku. It is a 1993-94 Ghana law report case. And before I come to the I, this matter had to do with one prominent gentleman who also belonged to the fraternity of Freemasons, and upon his death, the wife and the children applied to court for an injunction and also filed a writ as well. And amongst other things, they claim that, just like we have, they claim that they are the rightful persons to administer the funeral. And at the time, they also wanted to bury the deceased at Osu Cemetery. So they claim all those reliefs.
Right.
And Oko, representing the family, both maternal and paternal, counterclaimed with his reliefs and also claimed otherwise, that it is the family that has the right to administer, procure the body from the morgue, organize the funeral, and then also the burial at wherever the family chooses. And the court agreed. And the profound statement that the court made was that the wishes, and this is exactly what the judge said, the wishes of the nuclear family, that includes the spouse and the children,
right,
merely remain wishes. And the family is enjoined to hear them. But when it comes to a deceased body, it belongs to the family. And it is the family that decides on the funeral arrangement, procurement of the body from the morgue, and the burial of the deceased person. The family is entreated or enjoined to hear the wishes, underlying wishes. So whatever the nuclear family wants, so assuming without admitting, given the analysis that I had given, that the German woman is the wife, given the explanation, then what she is enjoined to do is to express her wishes to the family. And the family is to merely consider them as, okay, you want this, you want that, you want the man to be buried on this date, you want the man to be at a certain venue and all of that. We have heard that. The family will consider those things. And that is it. The family is not bound by law to follow the details of their wife and her children. That's it. So that is the position of the
counsel,
law as far as that is concerned.
Counsel, let's assume...
Mediation
Sorry.
is rather the way to go.
Right.
I'd had a situation at Tema at the time when Nana, now Court of Appeal judge, was at Tema.
Right.
I mean, it was a very brutal situation. But at the end of the day, calm heads prevailed, and the deceased woman had to be given a befitting burial.
Counsel, let's assume without admitting that Akosia Sewa Fosu was married to Daddy Lumba per customary law in Ghana before they sojourned on to Germany. And then also assume without admitting that Odobroni also went through the same customary process. Can then we recognize both of them as wives in this circumstance?
Perfect. So under the case of Graham and Graham, perfect. Because that's customary law marriage. And in fact, the customary law marriage principles says that, I mean, Daddy Lumba could have even gone beyond, given your hypothesis, could have gone beyond Germany, Brunei, and even to a third or fourth person of faith, provided he could have lived with all of them, because in the hypothesis, he married all of them by customary law marriage. But once there is ordinance, and it's the same thing, assuming without admitting that Daddy Lumba married Odobroni by ordinance, or let's even say customary law marriage like it is now, Daddy Lumba could not have married any other woman, or in this situation, the German woman by ordinance, because they are mutually exclusive of each other. And before he could move to marry the German woman by ordinance, Daddy Lumba ought to dissolve the customary law marriage he has celebrated or contracted with the Ghanaian one before he can cross carpet to. Other than that, the Ghanaian one will not be wife at all, will merely be enjoying concubinage, and it is the children who will benefit from the estate of the deceased. And this leads us to look at the wills and testamentary situation, given all these analysis. Now, if it is established that indeed the German wife is the wife, what would happen is that if Daddy Lumba did not execute a will, then PNDC law 111 would happen. And Odobroni, the Ghanaian wife, if the law so pronounces that indeed the German wife is the wife, then the Ghanaian wife will not inherit the man, but it will be the children who will, because the Ghanaian laws does not recognize, or precisely the PNDC law and the State Act does not recognize paramours. So paramours are people we classify as girlfriends or people in concubinage or cohabitation. So that is the situation of the woman. But if the man did a will, then definitely the wishes or the testament of the man would dictate who gets what and who does not get what. That one would save the situation.
Two families have locked horns, and hopefully they're in court. The courts will decide. But, counsel, as an African man, that when a man dies and he has a wife or wives, widowhood rites are performed. They are an integral part of the funeral process in the run-up to the burial, or if you like, the aftermath, or wherever the family decides to place it.
Yes.
In this particular case where the quagmire has been marred, who gets to take the widowhood rights?
So from the legal analysis given so far, by way of education, not that we are usurping the powers of the court, but for the public to understand customary law, marriage, ordinance, and all the nitty-gritties, all the legal angles that pan out. It suggests that, even analysis suggests that the German one, unless there's evidence to prove otherwise, the court could pronounce that she is the wife. And that would allow her to carry out the widowhood right. But she would not have authority, legal authority, let me use that word, legal authority, to decide on when the burial should happen, where the man should be buried, and all of those things. To the extent of the widowhood right, the court could pronounce, given authorities thereof, to say that indeed you are the wife, because Daddy Lumba did not finish with the processes of dissolution. And I once made this on your pronouncement on your platform, and it went viral. That had to do with that. There are a lot of people who are stuck in their marriage. They moved out of their homes, and they believe that, they've brought some drinks, so the marriage is dissolved. It is never. Technically, you are still married to. That is what has happened to Daddy Lumba. So many should learn from this. If you don't have money to get to a lawyer, have an arrangement with a lawyer and make sure that your past is cured. If you leave it as that and you move on, it will not come to hurt those you've left behind. And this kind of, the word you use, quagmire, would now prevail, where there will not be peace in the family. When the drinks were presented, ask from the facts, unless the facts are not right.
All right.
Where the woman presented the drink that she's no longer interested in the marriage because Daddy Lumba is involved in the marriage of things, and because of that, she's unable to live with those things. Daddy Lumba should have followed to dissolve the marriage in court, because that is where the marriage was contracted. But he failed and believed that marrying Odobroni by customary law marriage, once the drink from the woman's side had come, that is all. You cannot use customary law principles to dissolve ordinance. And this should serve as a wake-up call to persons who are existing in such situations. If you are no longer interested in the person, please get a lawyer, especially if it's by ordinance, dissolve it so that tomorrow. I was once in court when a matter like that came, just a short one, the man lived with the woman. The woman very industrious. The woman moved to Takrady, settled there, very industrious, had companies. After 40 years, the woman died, but in Takrady, married another man in Takrady, and now came to Accra to apply for letters of administration. And the man caveated, the question is, who is husband? And the law was simple. And we were all at the bar laughing and smiling. And we proffered opinion to the bar, from the bar to the bench as amicus curiae. And we all concluded that, my lord, indeed, the husband at Takrady is merely a paramour. He only engaged in cohabitation because the marriage that was contracted in Accra was never dissolved. When the woman moved to Takrady, she ought to have dissolved this particular marriage and moved on. So the man was merely a caretaker husband, a busybody husband, in the layman's sense.
A meddlesome interloper.
To deal with the legal matters so that tomorrow he will not come to worry us.
Now, there's a conversation about 15 years of absence from the marriage, which occasioned the advent of Sewa or Dobroni, forgive me, and then there are 6 children which have come out of that marriage. Within the confines of our law, how long should a spouse be absent from the marriage to warrant a nullification of that marriage automatically?
So now, one of the factors to dissolve a marriage, and the main ground to dissolve a marriage, one of the factors is desertion, and the main ground is irreconcilable differences. Now, it is true, and it is right from what you just said, that for 15 years, Daddy Lumba has been absent, and which we would call desertion. However, it is for either of the two to file a petition, for the other to file a cross petition, or for the other to respond by way of answer to the petition, and cite the ground for desertion. Now, the dissolution was never triggered. To cite that factor of desertion and conclude on the singular ground of irreconcilable difference, and based on that, the marriage should be dissolved. Now, given the absence of these legal steps, do we say because that existed, the marriage is dissolved? No. Technically, the marriage is still there, because once there's no dissolution, there's no decree of dissolution, we cannot say that because there existed certain matrimonial offenses or factors that dovetails into the dissolution of the marriage. No, they are merely matrimonial offenses or factors that can trigger the dissolution, that persons in the marriage can rely on, just like we have unreasonable behavior, just like we have desertion mentioned, man not being able to live for the woman for 2 years, for 5 years, adultery, and all of that. So all of these things are cocktails of factors that one can side on in order to trigger such relief for dissolution of the marriage. But once that litmus test was not crossed, the marriage technically still existed.
Interesting. Counsel, I thank you very much indeed for your legal enlightenment this morning. We're grateful that you could join us on Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. That's lawyer Chris Malm Hesse. He's a private legal practitioner sharing some nuggets of wisdom. Helen, you hear? You hear him?
I hear him.
You hear him clear?
Loud and clear.
Okay.
I think...
No standby husband and no caretaker husband.
At all. No German husband, no British husband.
Yeah.
No, and I hope...
If you are British, be British.
Yeah.
If you're German, be German.
That's it.
Thank God.
I know somebody's listening today and maybe now they're a bit confused about the way forward. This is free legal consultation that you've had this morning on the Sunrise Morning Show, especially because of that relationship between our customary laws and what happens elsewhere as far as the legality is concerned. In particular, that last leg of the conversation about what happens if there's desertion, the absence. And even in that case, you have to put a petition forward.
Right. You have to make a point to dissolve the marriage.
Exactly.
To bring an end to it.
Exactly.
Because if you leave it hanging, you may not know what would happen.
Exactly.
Because this is pure confusion that we have now.
I don't know what's going to happen.
I mean, everything just points to the fact that that first wife under the ordinance is the wife. But if we read the statement from the family, the last paragraph
the call to action
is what really, because if they want to litigate this, the first wife can drag them all down.
Yeah.
Because she is the legal
legitimately
wife. She is
the wife.
Based on the education that we've received. Once there's a marriage under the ordinance, we can make. I think there was an argument as to whether or not it's from Germany.
That's right. That's right. It can be effective here and all of
that. I expect it to be. That's why we've had so many.
But council says she can enforce her rights.
Yes,
in
that's
that
why we've had, and I'll cite an example. There are tales of Ghanaians who are married here. They get a visa, they go outside and in search of papers.
That's right.
They try. You don't disclose that because the moment it's found out that you're married under ordinance here,
it's actually dangerous. It's a crime.
You'll be in trouble if it's very different legal systems. Common law in the US, it's civil and all of that. It's very different, and so it is still enforceable. And so based upon that alone, she is the one who can decide to drag everybody down. But the family says, look, let's all come together. Let's have a conversation. I think it's not in all matters that the law should be used, because sometimes in the case of I am right, you are right, somebody must be right, something is lost, which is given DL the befitting peace and burial that he might deserve.
Yeah.
And so it's very important that they come together and leave this out of the court of public opinion one, and then the court in itself proper. Go sit as a family, put heads together and find a way to proceed. And that I think is the best way out of
Talking a lot of law, you're taking me back to my media ethics and regulation class. 1066, that's when the Norman Conquest common law.
Yeah.
Charlie, man learned so. I know we know see them at I make